Who do you dislike the most from your season?
So that's changed.
So is it one person or multiple people you don't get on with? One.
It would be gossip and it would be fun and it'd be like, oh, like great for the fans. But for me, it's like, oh, that's not gossip. That's not fun. That really hurt me. Then they told me I didn't do well. And then I spent 6 months thinking, oh God, this delusional like episode of me thinking I do great and I do rubbish is going to come out. And then it came out and I did do great. And I was like, why are you gaslighting me into thinking I did rubbish? So that's why I remember it. But I watched it back being like, God, I do look like a little pathetic little thing running off crying. But I just remember being like, oh, I'm about to put a fist through this fake pink wall in a minute. Like I remember just being angry. There's one I really want to tell you, but I'm worried even now that I'll get in trouble about it because I kind of did something I wasn't meant to do, and still no one from production has found out that I've done it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sat with Matt. My guest today is a stunning queen who charmed us with her impressive fashion skills and quirky humour when she appeared on season 6 of Drag Race UK. I'm super excited for you all to get to know her better and learn more about her amazing journey in drag. We'll, of course, be talking all things Drag Race, and I'll be asking some of the great questions you all sent in. So please join me in welcoming the sweet and fruity Marmalade!
Hello, hello. That was a lovely
Hi!
introduction. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good, very warm. It's very warm in the UK at the moment.
Yes,
Um,
I've heard.
which great for me because I don't wear many clothes in drag these days. But still very warm, but good, good.
Oh well, thank you so much for being here. I loved you on your season. You were such like a character on your season. You were so fun, and like obviously the fashion, which we'll get into, was incredible. Um, could you perhaps maybe tell us a little bit about, obviously before you were on the show? Can you tell us a bit about who is Marmalade? How did Marmalade come into being? How was Marmalade made? I was trying to make some puns with Marmalade, but I can't think of anything. What's your
That was it.
jam?
Yeah, yeah. I am saying that. I was going to make a joke myself. I don't know how marmalade's made. So I started drag technically in 2016, and I had no plan of doing drag. I had a friend at the time who's still my really close friend now, who she actually films behind the scenes with me, funny enough. Um, and she got really into drag and drag race, and she decided that we were both starting drag, and I didn't have any desire to do it, and I just went, okay, fine, sure, if you say, whatever. I would have followed her off a cliff at the time. I just did anything she said. So we like started, and then she eventually got tired of it and went on to something else, and still watched Drag Race, but just didn't do drag. And so then I was sort of doing it by myself, and I was like, yeah, it's fun. I don't know. I was like, there's something missing. I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't see myself doing drag in the way that it was like around me. And then I started sewing, and I was doing a lot of theatre separate, but then I did like a production of A Midsummer Night's Dream in drag, and it was kind of like the meeting point where I was like, oh, this works and that works, and then I made my costume for it, so that was the other element, and then I kind of just like stumbled into it from there, and then I met Victoria Scone, who is my drag mother, started sewing for them. Um, Again, I never had like a big passion for like clothing or fashion or anything like that, which is so funny. But it just became what was like convenient. And then I was like, oh no, can't I can't picture me not doing this now. I can't picture another job. Um, and then yes, that's where Marmalade came from. Um, yeah, quite unexpected, and a lot of points I thought it would stop, but we haven't stopped about 10 years later, so here we are.
Well, we're glad you haven't stopped. You mentioned earlier, I was going to actually ask you about this. So you are the drag daughter of Victoria Scone from UK season 3 and Canada's drag Canada versus the World, which also means that you're the drag granddaughter of Tia Kofi because Tia Kofi is Victoria's drag mother.
Yep.
So, what role do they play in your drag, if any? Like, do you have a lot of contact with them? And what can you? For a lot of people, we hear a lot about drag families, but what does that actually mean for you?
So for me, pre-drag race, me and Victoria met right before they got on season 3, and I like stayed at their house all before season 3, just doing any last bits of sewing. any of it. And I kind of thought, oh, I've helped them out. They'll say hi when I see them in the club, but they're kind of. I didn't expect them to want me in their life after that. I kind of thought, oh, they've made it onto Drag Race. I'm. But they got back and they wanted to hang out, and I was like, oh. And then that continued. So Victoria is they've moved from Cardiff now, so I don't get to see them as much. But Victoria is a very, very close, dear friend of mine, and they really like championed me in drag. A lot of the time, I went from making for Vic to Tia Kofi to Lawrence Chaney to like all the Drag Race queens at the time because of Vic like recommending me. Um, she'd like put me forward for like shows. She'd really like really give me advice, and still to this day, I remember at the time I was doing a competition in London, and it was the day before the finale of season 3. So she was in London and she came down to the club, and you could buy like points to tip people to like vote for them. I don't want to say how much money she spent, but like more than is reasonable. And I won the competition, probably because she bought it for me. Um, but yeah, and then Tia, funny enough, I didn't have as much contact with Tia necessarily as much pre-Drag Race. Um, it was a lot of it was the connection through Vic, but since sort of since about like 6 months before I filmed, we became very close, and we speak a lot on the phone on voice notes. So I don't get to see Tia as much, but I can confidently say I'm like close with both of them. And what I like is that a lot of people say, "Oh, my drag family," and it's like you're friends. Do you know what I mean? There's not like a hierarchy of mother daughter. That's a different relationship than drag sisters. But with Vic, it's very much like mother daughter. I remember I was sat in a room with her talking to someone else, talking about a hookup I had had, and she stepped in. She went. You can't talk about that. I can't listen to this. Like, this is very much mother child. Like, it would be like having that conversation in front of my actual mother. Is how it feels with Vic. And I really love that. Oh, I'm seeing them soon. I've just found out we're both doing Pride in Cardiff together, which is exciting, on the same day. So I
Oh,
will see her very soon, which is nice. Yeah.
that's very sweet. No, I loved Victoria on the season, and I mean Tia
Mm,
as well. I mean, both of them are amazing. That's such an amazing drag dynasty to come from, to be honest.
exactly. Exactly. No, we all did pretty well on Drag Race. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, I get to say that I made the final first time, so that's the one thing.
Yeah, the others had
Anything
to go
goes.
back to do it. You just did it first time.
Yeah, but then Tia has a crown, so hey,
It all evens out.
it all
No,
evens out.
so obviously, I think my audience will probably best know you from Drag Race UK
Of
season
course.
6. Could
Hmm.
you perhaps tell us a bit about the audition and how what led you to audition? Because obviously, if you, did you audition for other seasons? Because season 6 is obviously quite a way along. That's almost the most recent
Hmm.
season. Not quite, but
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
how did that all work?
So I auditioned for 5, and I thought you can see like the viewing figures, and I thought, okay, I'm getting on. I'm I got so many views. I got the same number of views as the people that got on, and then they all got their phone call, and I didn't get anything, and I was like, oh right, okay. Um, and then I always say to people, you can't like drag race can't be your goal. It Your goal has to be doing drag, and drag race is like a milestone along that path. Um, and so season 6 came around, and I was like, okay, I've been working. I think I'm a lot better than last year. Sure, I'll go for it again. And I have this funny thing where I believe with myself that I won't get something the first time, but I'll get it the second time, and I'll be glad that I got it the second time, not the first time. And it's happened I'm not superstitious, but it's happened multiple times in my life. So I kind of had that about Drag Race. And then I auditioned for it, and I almost quit the audition, quit like uh, threw in the towel because I recorded this one video and it went so rubbish, and I went, "That's it, I'm not doing it." And then it was my friend who was the one that got me into drag that had to sit me down and say, "No, you're finishing this audition." Um, and yeah, I had a feeling about 6. When I got that first phone call, I wasn't surprised. I I don't know. I just looked down and it was this unknown number, and I was like, "Oh, that's Drag Race. I know that is." Um, Yeah, and it's not even because I was super confident in myself. I just like had like a feeling that it was coming up. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you obviously felt something like something was. I was going to say brewing in the marmalade. There's something. There's some another pun I could probably find, but I just don't know what it is. But
It would really help if I knew how it was made.
yeah,
I should have buttons by now. That should
yeah.
be part of my act, and I don't.
Something. Anyways, I'm sure some chefs or something in the comments can tell us. But
Yeah,
anyway,
thank you.
you felt it somewhere in somewhere. Um, but I think season six was. I would argue season six is one of the best seasons of UK there's been. So I think in some ways maybe it was a good, or maybe it's because you were on six that it was so good.
I can I say something controversial? I think the only reason season two is sort of considered higher is the nostalgia factor of it being in lockdown and when it was. I think objectively, season six is the best, and not even because of me. I would actually say because of Lavoir, but objectively, but yeah, I say it's two and six, two and six.
I would agree. I think six.
And,
So two had the great storyline and the nostalgia, and I think it also had great storylines of you had like some villains and you had it was so many different characters. But then season six had a stacked cast, which was
yeah,
incredible.
I also looking at like five. Say, had I got on season five, I preferred the challenges on six. I like preferred the runways on six, and also I don't know. I don't know how well I would have done on five. It's that like years difference. It changes a lot. So I'm grateful for how it went and sort of the run I got.
So spinning forward, you get on season six, you walk in the
Hmm.
door that first day, and I think as soon as you walked in, I could tell there was something about this marmalade, like sweet and fruity, as I said in my intro. Did you know any of the other queens on the season?
I knew of a lot of them. Um, I had done a gig with Releaser, one gig, and then I had judged Actavia in a competition. And I judged the final, and I went into the back room and I said, I don't know who's coming second, but Actavia's coming first. And that was like a year or two before. And I had met Kyron briefly, and I think that is everyone who I had like met, but I knew of pretty much everyone. Um, yes, but yeah, Actavia, there was a little relationship there, but not much. Yeah,
Okay, so it's interesting because I mean people in some ways maybe forget obviously compared to the US, the UK is pretty tiny and the drag scene is also quite small. So a lot of people know each other, especially if you're not. A lot of people live in the bigger cities like London and stuff. So if you're in those
exactly.
scenes, it's quite
Hmm.
everyone kind of knows everyone. So it's not surprising. Pretty
Yeah,
much all the UK queens I've spoken to knew almost every single person on the
yeah,
season.
yeah. Also, we were all checking Reddit to see who was going to be there. Let's not pretend.
That's
Let's
what
not
I was gonna
pretend.
ask. That's what I was gonna.
Yeah,
Had you checked Reddit and how accurate was the Reddit?
I try not to be too like head in it because that's nothing to do with me. Who else is going to be there? It was pretty accurate. It was pretty accurate. Um, I think I'd seen pretty much everyone's name. Like there were a few names. Like I heard about Kiki and Kyron straight away, like months before. I was like, okay. Then I heard about Lavoir, and it wasn't until the day before that I heard about like Actavia and Chanel. Yeah, it was pretty accurate. I was like, yeah, this is kind of who I was expecting to be here. Yeah,
It was a stacked cast. I thought season six, like I said, is definitely one of my favorites. I think you definitely were on one of the good ones. I mean, they're all good in different ways, but your season, I think, is
well,
considered by most
well, are
people.
are they? Are they all good in different ways? I don't.
Which one's your least favorite? Come on, say the names.
Oh, season seven, I don't think was a very successful season. But I think part of it's challenge, but part of it, I think the commonality between two and six is that everyone's very individual. And when you look at like the top fours from each season, you can go, that is the corner that each of those occupy. Whereas I think everyone was like good at Drag on Seven, but I don't think they really got those like corners in the way they got it on six. Um, yes. Also, some of the challenges.
Definitely some of the challenges. But So six, I think six is definitely one of my favorite. I loved six. I reviewed six on my channel. I had your cast member Dita as a guest on one of the
Oh
episodes.
yes, you did. You did. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, I love Dita. Great, Dita. I love her.
I love you.
I loved your season. It was so much fun. Obviously, you were there for pretty much every single episode, as we'll talk about. So I can't go through every single episode, but I wanted to kind of go through some of the highlights, maybe also the lowlights, if you want to call it that
Oh
as
yes,
well.
please.
Which of the challenges do you think you enjoyed the most and the least?
I enjoyed the Rusical the most.
Oh,
I think it was. I liked how it was written. I liked how we had our individual parts. It wasn't all. They like to humiliate you on Drag Race and give you like you're going to be a crocodile. I liked that I got to be a person that was some sort of impersonation. I really liked the song I got. I just thought it was really fab, the whole musical. And it was even I recently watched the season back a couple weeks ago or started to. And it's so interesting because I've not watched it since. And I can see the first half of the season me. I can see me presenting and sort of, hello RuPaul. Nice to meet you. Joke, catchphrase, witty comment. Like I can see myself doing all that. But with the Ruse School, that I remember feeling it in the moment, but then watching it, I can see like, oh, that's where I kind of like relaxed. Um, and my least favorite challenge was Snatch Game. Terrible. Like I did fine, but it was so stressful. It you were sat in a silent room. There are everyone from production comes in and sits in silence to watch it. Sat watching, and I was the first on the panel. And in the edit, they jump around to get who answers. In real life, they go down the rows. So every question, I had about 5 seconds to answer, whereas Octavia at the end had 5 minutes. So it was just. I don't know. It was fine. Nothing went wrong with Snatch Game. I was perfectly safe and I was happy with that. But it just, I was like, oh, I didn't enjoy that. Afterwards, I was like, oh, that wasn't fun. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you didn't. I don't think you really had a bad challenge on any of them, and we'll get into your most memorable challenge perhaps in a second. But let's start with the bad. Let's get that over and done with.
Go for it. Go
So
for it.
I think probably one of your most memorable moments, or at least the moment that you might be remembered for, at least on the season, was on episode 2/3, was your slight confrontation, shall we say, with Chanel, the lovely Chanel. Now, obviously, the
Mhm.
setup of that was that you would all work together. You, Lil, and Chanel had done the design challenge in teams, and then Chanel said, "I'm glad that Marmalade or Marm didn't get it because she only did 10% of the work, and you were not impressed."
I'll say this. I'm just glad it didn't go to Marm. If we're picking hairs, I literally think me and Lil worked so closely together and you chimed in maybe I'd say about 10% of the time.
Can you talk us a bit about how did that feel in the moment?
Okay, so I will preface this because there are still people who think me and Chanel hate each other. Chanel is one of the nicest people from this season, and I genuinely mean that. She is one of my closest sisters. I love her. I adore her. It's funny you watch people's perceptions of Queens on Drag Race versus the reality is so funny sometimes because there's people love, and you go, she is not very nice, and then people have this thing about Chanel, and she's the loveliest. So I'll just say that to start with. Um, yeah, it was interesting because we all thought we were going to win as a three. That that's what we expected. Then Saki had to go home, and we were like, oh no. And I don't think it had helped that before we went to the runway, I told Chanel I didn't like her necklace. I didn't think it worked. And then we went for critiques. I got all positive, like clearly the best critiques of the night. And Chanel's one negative was about her necklace. And I was like, and then when we were against each other, I think Chanel, same as me, had the pressure of like, this is the challenge I've got to win. This is the challenge for me. And if I don't win, I'm not going to win the season. And so I think, and I'll say that when I didn't win the lip sync, I went, okay, I'll get to the end. I'm probably not going to win this season now because I feel like I would have won that challenge. But I just, yeah, I think Chanel. I think she was just upset, and I think she knew she couldn't take it out on Lil, and I think it was just a bit of frustration, which in hindsight is hilarious. But I had just done really well, and I did not like being told that I had not done well.
It's interesting you mentioned about the perceptions because I've always felt like personally, maybe I'm just messy, right? But I think you need someone who's going to be a bit of a villain, a bit of a,
Oh yeah.
ruffle some feathers. Otherwise, it's really boring if everyone just sings Kumbaya. And I liked that Chanel brought that. But I
Me
always
too.
wondered,
Me
she seemed like a nice person, but it was interesting to hear your perspective on it that you said she's one of the nicest people, and then there's other people you think are nice and they're actually not. I think that's quite an interesting dichotomy.
She's just so she's exactly how she seems on TV. She's so like doolally away with the fairies, like so like I can't even explain it. She's just hilarious. But like I could see, I remember that first day we were doing the talent show, I was sat by her and she was just, I could see she was like bricking it a little bit. And that sort of environment, it will do that to you. But that's the thing, she is cutting. She can be like eviscerate you, but she's so lovely. It's such a unique balance. I've never met anyone like her. But she's the best person, the loveliest person.
So when you watched, because obviously you know what happened because you filmed it, but it went, I guess, filming it and then seeing on TV are two different things. One of, I think, the best bits was, first of all, when you ran off like a Disney princess crying.
And I cannot take it back. We just have to deal with it.
I just feel really upset because I feel like we got along really well.
Yeah.
I just feel, I just need a minute. I just need a minute.
Give her a sec, give her a sec.
Like that moment was hysterical. I'm sure it maybe didn't feel like that in the moment, but watching it was hysterical. What did you think when you saw that back?
Well, my thing in that moment wasn't that I was upset. Wasn't that's not how I felt. I felt angry. And I was about to say something that I would not be proud watching back. And my thing is always, let me step back. Nothing is resolved in like heat of the moment comments. Like that doesn't fix anything. So I was like, it was I on the tip of my tongue, I can't remember what it was, but I went to say something and I went, no, that's not, there's a camera there, that's not what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna take myself away. And I was just really frustrated because I was like, we've just done really well. This moment right now could just be about us doing well. Like this is solving nothing. So that's how I remember it. But I watched it back being like, God, I do look like a little pathetic little thing running off crying. But I just remember being like, oh, I'm about to put a fist through this fake pink wall in a minute. Like I remember just being angry. And I just know I'm better when I've had a beat to think. So I was like, let's just do that instead. Let's do that.
And then the next day, as in when you come back into the workroom and you're all around, you confronted Chanel, which was one of the most iconic moments.
You didn't win, and I felt it was a part of your personality to come back in here and find someone to blame. Octavia, why don't you tell everyone what the animal on the Welsh flag is?
The dragon.
Exactly. And that is absolutely who I am. So I love you. I respect you. It's just, I felt so amazing, and you made me feel like shit.
What did that moment feel like? Had you planned that the night before? Like you hadn't seen Chanel and you thought, I'm going to go in tomorrow and say this?
It's interesting because Drag Race gives you a very unique opportunity when you have an argument that you get to watch back months later in a way that you never get to see how you never get to see things unfold. And so that's why when I got back to like my hotel room that night, I was like, whatever I say to her tomorrow, I will have to watch back in 6 months. And in 6 months, will I be happy with how I conducted myself if I shout at her? Probably not. And so for me, a lot of it, I was going over in my head, like the night before I shouted it all at the wall just to get that element out. And then I was like, okay, how do I actually want to say this? And then I was like, we're on TV, might as well throw in a few little fun lines, why not? So I had like a framework of what I wanted to say, but a lot of things were sort of coming to me in the moment. She did, before we went in, she came up to me and she said, I know we've got to talk about this on camera. Can we just do it, me and you, in the corner? And I said, yeah, absolutely we can. I was like, no, I'm going to get you in front of the group because you got me in front of the group. So yeah, and also that was the other thing. I needed to say it like that, otherwise I would have been distracted. I don't do well holding things, so I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this challenge if I don't just lay it out. And I've got to credit where credit's due. She straight away turned around and went, "Yeah, you're right. That was wrong with me." Which also takes a lot because I can't even admit I'm wrong that quickly. So yeah, like I said, Chanel O'Connor, wonderful person, love her.
I thought it was very interesting. I didn't expect her to kind of apologize so quickly because she had been presented as like the villain, and I think it showed that she wasn't really. Also interesting to hear that you mentioned about the fact that you had thought, okay, I'm going to be on camera. I need to think about how I'm going to do this, and if I'm going to be proud of what I see in months' time. This is all because I think a lot of queens don't talk about the self-editing of yourself because it doesn't always have to be in a bad way. It can be in a good way.
Exactly.
Because I think. I mean, obviously for drama, people probably would have wanted to see your raw reaction because it would have been more kind of like dramatic and stuff. But I guess for you and your life and your longevity and your career and your friendship with Chanel, it is probably a good thing that you sort of thought about it.
Well, this is also quite interesting because a lot of people, like, I think I handled it in a way that you don't typically get to see on Drag Race. And I think a lot of people found that to be really interesting because also at that point I had been quite quiet, and I think maybe that might have been why Chanel popped off at me because I'd come across as someone that could be spoken to like that or whatever. So I think that also benefited me to be like, no. So I also I think it made me more interesting, and it was like the start of my like story arc. Unknowing to me, like that was the start of my like interesting character development type thing. I don't work in TV. I don't know how it works. But I think that's where I was sort of coming into myself at that point, I think, which helped overall.
It gave you a storyline. It gave Chanel a storyline in a way as well, because Untucked often these days is not that, especially on the UK, if we're being honest, it's not that good normally. It's not really a proper Untucked. But that was probably one of the only really good moments on Untucked in a long time. So I thank you for your service on that.
I just remembered that was the moment I was there. I was like, I'm on Drag Race. I'm having an argument with a drag queen on Drag Race about nothing. I'm having one of those silly arguments about cross-dressing on TV. Oh my god, I'm one of those. Those. Oh my god, like 14-year-olds are going to tweet about this. Oh my god, that's what's happening here. That's when I realized where I was.
So one thing I was going to ask about that moment though was because I remember at the time Chanel talked about this episode on her YouTube channel, and she said that apparently in that moment 6 people came for her and she burst into tears and ran off, but they just didn't show it in the episode. Do you remember that happening? Okay, so we've talked about a couple of those challenges. You mentioned the roast. Well, I was actually going to ask you about the roast because I remember you were actually the thumbnail of the roast episode on my channel, and it was like your face, and it was like, was Marmalade too harsh? I think was the title or something like that. Because I was of the opinion I didn't think you were that harsh, but that was really the storyline they were going for. Do you think it's just because they wanted to put you in the bottom, or they wanted to give you that storyline of she's doing well so far, so we're going to try and get her?
Do you know what? I don't really know. Because at that point in the competition, we all knew it was between Kyron and Lavoie. We all knew, the rest of us, we were vying for 3rd place at that point. Like, I knew. And that was fine. That's fine. I'm happy to be there in whatever form. So I thought it was going to be Lavoie does great. Ooh, Kyron has a little bit of a wobble because Kyron had been doing really well. This is her wobble moment before she takes the crown. And I was like, why don't they just give me a nice little high placement? You know, did well done. We didn't expect that from you. Off to the final to lose, you go. You know, that's kind of what I thought. So then when it was like, they gave the critiques, because this is the thing. I'm not even being delusional when I say this. Ask anyone in that room. I got great laughter like the entire set. There's even a shot where they show me saying a joke about Michelle and she goes like this. and you can hear RuPaul laughing in it, the shot.
It's no secret that Michelle has had some work done. I mean, looking at you now, your eyebrows start where RuPaul's hairline ends.
No, ma'am.
So I thought, and I was like, oh, my runway's great. Oh, I'm not going to win, obviously, but I'm on my way to the final, great. And then they did that. I was a bit like, I don't see what the point in this is. I don't. I didn't understand. And it was the only point of the season when I watched back that I found myself a bit annoyed because I thought I did great. And then they told me I didn't do well. And then I spent 6 months thinking, oh God, this delusional like episode of me thinking I do great and I do rubbish is gonna come out. And then it came out and I did do great. And I was like, okay, I knew like why are you gaslighting me and thinking I did rubbish? So hey, ultimately it didn't matter. Like I said, I wasn't going to win at that point, and I got to go to the final. And I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, I thought it was a bit odd. I was like, oh, couldn't you have just given me a little top placement? Couldn't? No, okay, fine. But yeah,
Was that one of the only moments where you thought the edit was being shady or inaccurate? Like what do you think of your edit on the whole season? Was that the only time, or were there other moments where you thought that's not quite how I remember it happening?
the edit was pretty fine for me. There was a moment when we walked into the workroom between me and Kyra, and Kyron said I said something to Kyra, and she said a joke back, and then I had like a joke that put her in her place, and they cut my joke out to make Kyron look like she had got me, which bothered me because I was like, Kyron's not winning an argument with me, babe. That's never going to happen. But it was the only. I don't even know whether it was the edit. I just don't, because even in the edit, I think I did well. I just didn't think the critiques matched the performance necessarily. Because also my big thing was Michelle said I was too harsh because I made a joke about having plastic surgery, but then All Stars 9 came out and Plastique said her vagina is so black, battered, and bruised. It's however many face tapes away from hosting Drag Race or something. And I was like, and she loved it. And I was like, if the joke's not funny, fine. But I don't think it was harsh given what you usually find okay. Like people do make the most misogynistic, transphobic jokes about Michelle, and it's fine. It's in the context of Drag Race. It's fine. But me saying you've had work done on your face, which I think she actually has, I'm like, that was so light. That was so light. So I don't know. I don't know if Michelle was just really sensitive that day because I wasn't the only one that got told I was a bit mean. So I don't know. I was just a bit like, if you want a stand-up set, I can do a stand-up set, but you asked for a roast, so I did a roast. I don't know. It was just very confusing to me. And also, we didn't have much time for that challenge at all. We had no like mentors to help us like go through our material, so we were all just completely on the fly. End of the competition. I think we filmed the entire episode in one day, sandwiched between the makeover and the finale. So there was no time. I don't know. Maybe I thought there would be some understanding of that, but then they just seemed really harsh for no reason. I was like, okay, fine. I mean, I've got to the final. I'm not going to complain, but I just thought it was a bit odd. And I still think it's a bit odd. But hey ho.
I think I even said this in my Have Your Say video that you were the thumbnail of. I even said I really didn't get why it wasn't even that harsh. But interestingly, you said, so if was Michelle's reaction genuine? Like, did they edit that in, or did you know in the moment that she was a bit annoyed about it, or was that all in editing?
I saw her. She did this. That happened. I didn't perceive it in the. I think in the moment I just was like, "Oh, you," because she was going. She was trying to be like, "No, I haven't," but like, because that's the thing. I remember RuPaul laughing at everything because her laugh is obviously so distinct. I think Michelle was. I can't really remember, but I do remember her doing this, and I remember like, oh, that she seemed a bit offended. Oh, she can't be. That much. You must just be doing a little bit. But yeah, and then do I say that?
Go on.
The only critique I was ever actually annoyed about or really bothered me was one of the judges on that panel said they could tell that I wasn't a naturally funny person. And I was a bit like, they didn't use it in the edit, but I was like, you don't know me enough to make that sort of a judgment. Yeah, so this judge who maybe didn't necessarily know me making quite a sweeping statement. And I was like, I am known to be quite funny. Like, generally, I do a lot of humor. I host. I think they might have seen how I presented in my runway and in the challenge and thought, oh, she looks great in her fashion. She can't do this, and that was I don't know, but that was the one thing where I was like, I'll take all the critiques, but that one you don't know me enough to make that critique of me. Like, if you didn't find it funny, that is absolutely fine. If you don't think that set was funny, fine. To say that you can tell that I'm not naturally funny is like, so yes, it really pissed me off. It really pissed me off, but it's fine. It's just a TV show. We're all good. We're all good. But yeah.
Well, going from one of your probably like lower moments to probably, I think, your highest moment, maybe apart from what you said about the Rusical, but was the makeover challenge, because that was the episode that you won with your lovely mother. Can you tell us a bit about the challenge? Like, did you know that your mother was going to be coming? Like, was there kind of like, did they have to sign a release form before so you kind of knew?
We didn't have a clue.
Oh,
no one knew.
oh,
They contacted them whilst we were away, so they organised it. Before you go on Drag Race, you have to give certain contacts. So you have an emergency contact. So my mother was my emergency contact, and other contacts. So they rung up those contacts and said, "Can you suggest someone for each person?" For me, because they'd spoken to my mum, they just rang my mum and said, "Can you just do it?" Because also I've been speaking about my mum a lot there. And what's funny is before I left to film, my mum came into my studio, picked up the makeover outfits and went, "I'm going to wear this one." And I was like, "Mum, you're not going to be there. They're not going to bring family for it. They've done that." And she went, "Yeah, well, I think I am. I'm going to wear this one." And then, because my mum is always right, when I think Chara's mum walked in first, I was just like, I know my mum is stood right behind that wall over there. I just know she is. So no, it was a complete surprise for all of us.
Well, your mum was so sweet and so nice, and your makeover is got to go down as one of the best. I mean, it was so clean and simple, but effective, and fashion. Obviously, that's you. I loved that so much. Did you go into it thinking, yeah, we're winning this, or were you not sure?
I'll be honest. When I didn't win the Rusical, I knew I was going to win the makeover. Don't ask me. I was very good at predicting things on Drag Race. I kind of knew when people were going home and what was happening. I remember the Rusical. They announced the lip sync song, and I turned to Octavia and I went, "You're going home." And she went, "Yeah, I think you're right." And then she went home. So I was very good at predicting. So I just thought, like, if I didn't win the design challenge, I was like, this is a looks-based challenge. I've got, like, surely. I was like, I've done too well not to get a badge, I think. So I'm like, surely. And then when my mum came in, I was like, oh yeah, it's over. Like, thank you. Like, I knew.
So you won the makeover challenge. You also made it to the obviously the final. You didn't win, unfortunately. I'm sure some people think that you should have done. Did you go into the competition thinking I'm going to win, or did you go in, if you're being honest, thinking, this isn't me putting words in your mouth, but I'm genuinely curious. Did you go in thinking I just want to have fun and increase my exposure and get higher booking fee and like do that kind of thing, or did you go in thinking I want to win?
I had no. This sounds awful to say. I had no desire of winning Drag Race. I'll be honest. I still don't have much desire, and that's not because I think I'm above it or anything. It's more, I love Drag Race, and I wanted to go on Drag Race because I wanted to experience it, and I wanted to do all the challenges. I wanted to show all the runways. My goal was to get to the end and not win, which is exactly what happened. And also another thing somebody does not tell you about: winning is so stressful. Holding the weight of being the crown queen of that season is not something I want. I don't know. Like, Kyron is, I'm sure, very happy to win, But sometimes I look at things like the comparisons that get made between her and Lavoie and everything Lavoie's doing now. And because Lavoie had an established career, so, you know, sometimes I feel a little bad for Kyron because I'm like, she can't just enjoy being a winner. It's got to be, you've got to put it down a bit. And it's like, I don't know. I don't want that. I would rather people tell me I was either robbed or I placed exactly where I deserved to place than tell me that I got something that I didn't deserve. It's some people are very happy to have that. I'm sure Karen is happy with her £25,000. I'm sure she's thrilled. It's not something I wanted. And also, it sounds funny. I don't see myself as a Drag Race winner. And I know that sounds weird, but I don't know. When I look at the past winners of Drag Race UK, I didn't see myself in that. And not because I'm not as good at that as them, or I don't do drag well or anything like that. I just didn't see myself there. So I was just happy to get to the end. And I actually, coming back from filming, I was so glad. We weren't sure whether I was going to have a crowning filmed. We were like, some of the queens in the room thought I would, some didn't, and it was kind of like that. And I was so glad I didn't, because that's the other thing. Had I won, say I had a crowning film, I would be terrified of winning. Beating Karen and Lavoie, like I would have been like torched. Do you know what I mean? And it's not worth it. Getting to do the competition, getting like the great experience, and sure, the exposure afterwards is part of it. But for me, it was getting to be on this show that has inspired me, you know, and getting to do all those challenges and sort of proving that I can do all these challenges well. So my biggest thing was getting to the final without ever being in the bottom two. I was like, okay, so I can excel at every area of Drag Race. That's all I needed.
So yeah, I think you did an amazing on Drag Race. One thing I wanted to ask you is obviously my main channel is Drag Tea Serve. This is Sat with Matt, my interview channel, but my main channel that people might know me for is called Drag Tea Served. So could you serve us some drag tea? Maybe something that happened behind the scenes that didn't get shown, or a moment you wish had happened. You know, was there a fight, or was there a moment that you just wish had been shown that wasn't?
Oh. There's one I really want to tell you, but I'm worried even now that I'll get in trouble about it. I don't think I'm brave enough to tell you that one. Because I kind of did something I wasn't meant to do, and still no one from production has found out that I've done it.
Okay.
It didn't change anything massively. But actually, they never said it wasn't I couldn't do it. It was probably just implied. Anyway, oh no, I can't. Can I say that? Oh. Okay, the grand finale. The way when you go to do the runways on Drag Race, they get RuPaul into position, all the judges into position, then you come in afterwards, do the runways. So when you get to set, everyone's already sat, ready to go, and you get there and you go straight on. Because my finale dress was so big, I couldn't walk to like in the studio, so I had to get dressed backstage. So on the finale day, I traveled to set first, then the judges, then the other queens. So I was getting into my finale dress and they said, you've got to be very quiet. RuPaul's just arrived. And I knew she was walking across and I was like, this rumor, because we had never seen RuPaul below the waist in drag. This rumor about what the bottom half of her outfit looks like when she's not on the main stage. No one has got to see this. So Hannah, who is the member of the Queen team who was getting me into my skirt, I went, Hannah, stop. And I like went like this in the curtains, and I peeked, and I saw RuPaul walking across up to the desk, and the top half of her dress was there, and then she had like she was wearing what is rumored to be she would be wearing.
She was wearing sweatpants. You can say it.
And like her dressing gown, she had like a cup of coffee, and I was like, oh. I'm ready to get eliminated. Send me home. I've seen it. And I was the only person that got that, and I shouldn't have. But yeah, that was fun. That's
really cool. I mean, the room it's 100% confirmed. So many people, like Bob has said it. So many queens have said it. There was even that like picture that accidentally got released of RuPaul when she was sitting down, like the black and white blurry one, and they had to remove it afterwards because she had sweatpants on. So
So can I say something as well? When you're on the runway, when you're not getting your critiques, when you're lined up and it's somebody down there's critiques, RuPaul will let you take your shoes off. She will turn to you and she'll say, "Are your feet in pain? Do you want to take your shoes off?" I remember on the headpiece runway, my head, she could tell my headpiece was hurting, and she turned to me and she said, "You can take your headpiece off if you want." So as much as she's dressing to be comfortable, she allows you to be comfortable. So it's she's not sat there in her ivory tower, making you stand there in pain and telling you what's what. Like she is considerate, and I'll say on Drag Race you can tell it's being run by a drag queen, the way you're treated and the way everything works, which is very nice, because a lot of jobs you have when you're in drag, they treat you like an alien.
We've mentioned a few. You were talking about your outfit and everything. One thing I think we definitely need to speak about, obviously, is your fashion, because that was your thing. We'll get into this in a minute because there were some questions about this from my audience. But nothing bad. But I just wanted to say, so you had an amazing fashion on your season. But one thing that people might not know, or maybe they would have guessed or whatever, is that you've actually made quite a few other outfits, if this is to be believed, that I found online that have featured on Drag Race. So tell me if these are correct. So you made Copper Top's UK Season 4 Ru Are You runway, and also the Neon Nights runway.
Yes.
The first one was not very well received by the judges, so I'm not sure you want to take credit for that.
Yeah, let's cut that one
out. Victoria Scone's Canada versus the World Arctic Foxy Lady, and also the Air Body Lace runway.
Yes.
And you also made Zahira Zapanta's UK versus the World Season 3 promo look.
Yes.
So one thing
you've missed out some great ones.
Carry on.
I also made Dakota Schiffer's neon runway that season, which was the Pokemon one. I made part of Victoria Scone's finale gown, which was the gigantic crown on Canada versus the World. It was meant to be Tia Kofi's entrance look for UK versus the World, but she wore it for the lip sync for Snatch Game that she won. It was like a purple bodysuit with like this black cape. And I've made some more that have not come out yet.
Well, so this brings me on to one of the questions, quite a few of the questions. A lot of the questions from my subscribers and stuff were about you as a designer and stuff like that, saying, someone said, for example, how do you feel that you have one of the best packages, period, on any Drag Race franchise, not even UK, but just period Drag Race? Like, how do you feel about that?
It feels really nice for a few things. The main reason is you come off Drag Race and it's nice to have a thing. I like that I had a thing that I'm known for, that I can say I am arguably the best at, depending on opinion. And that's nice to walk away with that. That's nice. Also, for me, I like that because Drag Race has gotten so big and grand. To me, it shows that the show is at least somewhat. It's still accessible. Like, a lot of people don't realize, I've never taken a sewing class in my life. I have no training in sewing. I have no degree. I took one sewing class in school in the UK. You'll know this. You have to make like a pillowcase when you're like 10. So I made a pillowcase when I was 10, and that is the last sewing class I had. And I made everything, not necessarily out of, oh, I'm so passionate. It was out of necessity. I was like, I don't have the resources not to do it this way. And so I felt glad that I could still stack up against people who could invest so much money and have all these designers. So that's where it feels nice, where I can sort of sit here and be like, see, you can do it too.
If you don't mind me asking, can I ask how much you spent on your package? This is a potentially not shady but interesting question. So my patron member Peach said, and I'm not sure I remember this happening, but they said on The Final Frontier, which is Tia Kofi's podcast, apparently Lawrence Chaney made like a quip or a joke or something that they asked you to make an outfit and you said no.
Marmalade. 3, 2, 1, go.
Won't make an outfit for me, we'll make an outfit for her.
made quite a few outfits for me.
Yeah.
She actually made the outfit that I wore on the TARDIS.
Oh, I saw. Grievances.
Yeah.
So it's true.
No, okay, so I have made outfits for Lawrence before in the past. I've made about 2 outfits. And Lawrence has asked me to make things for the Las Vegas Live and something else. It was like a Lady Gaga thing or something. But both times it was so short notice and I was so like busy with other things that I just couldn't. Whereas Tia I speak to a lot. So Tia will say, I want this outfit, just let me know when you can do it. So I can sort of slot her in better, whereas Lawrence kind of needs it then and there. So that is the only reason. I would love to make an outfit for Lawrence. Lawrence, reach out. I'll make you an outfit for All Winners 2 or whatever you've got. Yeah, that sent me west. That was so funny.
So what I'm hearing is that you hate Lawrence Chaney. Let's just start that rumor, shall we?
Well, I was watching it going like, yeah, she's right. I did say no. Yeah. But she's not the only one. Like, Crystal Versace's asked for outfits in the past, and again, same thing. Haven't had time to slot it in. So lots of people. But no, Lawrence, I'd love to make you an outfit.
My YouTube member Steph had a question that's maybe slightly shady, but said, "Who would you call your best Judy or sister from your UK season 6, and who did you dislike the most?"
So my closest sister is probably Octavia and Zahira. Probably I speak to Zahira more. I speak to Zahira every single day. So it's probably like a close tie between those two. My DMs with Zahira are not safe. The amount of a drag queen will post something, a drag race queen will post something, I'll just send it to her and be like, girl, and she'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Same with Octavia. And what was the other question?
Who do you dislike the most from your season?
So that's changed.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. So on set, as much as I love her now, Chanel wound me up. Like, I was like, they're setting me up. I remember they sat next to me in Snatch Game, and I was like, they're doing it to throw me off. And then she went home, and I loved her. And again, she's one of my closest sisters now. And who I dislike now? There's someone I dislike, but I'm not going to tell you.
So is it one person or multiple people you don't get on with? One. Okay. Well, I'm sure people commit wild speculation. Can you give us a clue as to what the reason is? It something that happened after the show?
Yes, something that something extremely unprofessional.
Wow. Okay. That kind of thing happens a lot, I think, unfortunately. But it's interesting to hear and is this something that people won't know because it happened kind of off camera, not on social media and stuff?
They won't have a clue. And like specific, it's the type of thing where it's not even a lot of things. Like obviously, it would be gossip and it would be fun and it'd be like, oh, like great for the fans. But for me, it's like, oh, that's not gossip. That's not fun. That really hurt me. That like really hurt my feelings. And it's kind of yes. So yes, that shan't be going anywhere. But yeah.
And one other question I had was, a lot of people pointed this out. A lot of people mentioned this. So Nina Bonina Brown from obviously US season 9, she loved you on the season. She does her own reviews on YouTube, and obviously she's a fashion queen, really quirky and interesting. Mm-hmm. She loved you, and you were she literally praised you every single episode and said she would buy everything you ever made. Did you find out about that, and how did it make you feel?
So do you know what's funny? I watched her review of the promos when that came out, and she did it with Mystique Summers Madison. And they weren't that nice about me. And some of it, I was like, that's fair enough, like if it's not your taste. But some of it, I don't know, they were talking about, how do I put this? They were talking about elements of my body that I was a bit like, this goes beyond talking about my drag body, and now you're sort of talking about my ribs being like showing, and this is getting into an area what like that's fine, but it's not for me, so I'm just not going to watch this. And then it was at the end of the season, and I just assumed, yeah, Nina doesn't like me, that's fine. And then the end of the season, I got tagged in something, and I was like, what? So then I went back and rewatched them, and I was like, oh no, she loved me. So it was really funny, and like, it was a small comment at the start. It's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. But it was just one thing where I was like, okay, this is probably not the vibe of video I'm going to enjoy, so I'll just go watch the other ones and I'll leave it. So I assumed she hated me for ages, and then I was like, oh, there we go. Which really cool. Really appreciated that somebody saw me.
Have you? Did she ever reach out to you or anything like that?
No, I've never spoken to her.
Oh, because someone's literally done a compilation. Like if you type in Marmalade,
yeah, I've seen it.
Which I have done, there is an entire compilation of it.
I've seen it. I was really blown away. I was like, oh my god, I hadn't been seeing it week to week, so I had no idea. But yeah, really appreciated it.
One other last question. So many people wanted to know this. Would you do an All Stars or a Versus the World or something like that?
I was waiting for this question. I was like, they're not going to do an interview without asking me that. I'm very unsure. It depends greatly on what's being offered, when it's being offered, if there's any stipends or budget to go with it, what else I have going on. Overall, at the moment, I'm leaning towards no. But if it comes around at the right time, then sure.
Okay. What's the reason for the no?
I had such a great experience the first time. I don't want to mess it up. And also, a lot of people go back to like do challenges they haven't done or prove stuff they didn't get to prove. And I kind of, not to sound too confident or whatever, but I was happy with everything I got to do and everything I got to show. So there's nothing I'm like chomping at the bit to like go back and redeem or prove. But yes, depends.
Well, thank you so much, Marmalade. It's been absolutely lovely speaking to you. If people want to sort of like take a sweet bite of your marmalade, where can people find you? And is there anything you want to talk about or promote? You know, where can people find you? What can people look forward to from you?
So we're on YouTube now. So the best place you can find me from here is to head over to my YouTube. I think it's Marmalade or That's Marmalade. Just type my name in, it'll come up. I do my own series called Behind the Scenes, where I look at the runways each week from the various seasons of Drag Race. I've also started posting like videos of me sewing and like looking at other things. So there's a lot of content over there. If you'd like to go and subscribe, please do. I enjoy doing it. If you're in the UK, my one-woman show, Mom Spotlight, is touring at the moment. We're in Cardiff, and then we've just announced like Glasgow and Edinburgh and Leeds and Newcastle and other dates. So get your tickets for that.
Thank you so much for coming on my little channel. And, you know, this interview's been so lovely. You were genuinely one of my favorites from the season. So it's been so lovely speaking to you.
Thank you. I've had a lovely time, and it's been lovely to relive all the trauma. It's been perfect.
Could you maybe sign us off by giving us, I don't know, is there a little like a Welsh expression you can give us or something, you know, to sort of sign us off from this interview?
Oh, I'm not a Welsh speaker, but I've been learning Welsh. So what can I say? Oh, no, I'm not going to be able to say it. I can say, diolch yn fawr and hwyl fawr, which is thank you very much and goodbye.
Yes, I thank you. I knew, but I didn't know the other one. What's goodbye in Welsh?
Hwyl fawr.
Hwyl fawr. Okay, well, we're going to say hwyl fawr to Marmalade.
Hwyl.
I was about to say it in Welsh, but that doesn't make any sense. But thank you so much. It's been absolutely a pleasure speaking to you.
Mwah.
Thank you. Bye.